Hello, and thanks for the opportunity to provide a brief introduction to Green Shores today. My name is DG Blair, and I'm the Executive Director and Project Manager for Green Shores in British Columbia. For those who are not familiar with the Stewardship Centre, we're a nonprofit organization based in BC, and our mandate is to strengthen ecological stewardship in BC by providing educational, technical, and capacity programs to organizations, governments, the private sector, and the general public, and we always work through collaborative partnerships. Today, I will introduce you to the Green Shores program, including its rationale, benefits, and applications for lakes and wetlands, as well as some information on Green Shores training. So what is Green Shores? Basically, it's a rigorous standard that is based on these four guiding principles. The first is that we want to preserve or restore shoreline physical processes. We also want to maintain or enhance habitat function and diversity. We want to prevent or reduce pollutants from entering the aquatic environment. And finally, we want to avoid or reduce cumulative impacts. So whenever we're designing a shoreline project, we want to keep all four of these principles in mind. Why do we want to keep those principles in mind with shoreline projects? Basically because functioning lake and marine shorelines are vital to our most iconic species. If we don't have that shoreline vegetation and rack that provide nutrients to produce phytoplankton and zooplankton, then we won't have those forage fish that are key sources for salmon, and the salmon that are key food source for our top of the line predators in marine environments. So Green Shores design strengthen this food chain in both lake as well as marine shore ecosystems. But we do have some shoreline development issues. Often we see encroachment into the foreshore area with fill and then docks. We have shoreline hardening, where we remove the natural shape of the shore and put either a bulkhead made of concrete or riprap. And then probably one of the things that I see the most often is the infilling of that shore zone and removal of riparian vegetation. And so basically all these issues and examples decrease the functioning of healthy shore ecosystems. I wanted to touch briefly on the problem of too many docks. So there's been some studies done in Lake Washington, just south of the border here, and they found that young migrating salmon tended to avoid areas below docks, and they go out of their way to go around the dock. And basically this adds length to their migration. They also have the issue of overwater lighting that attracts predators and also can temporarily affect fish vision. So that, as well as depending on how the dock is constructed, it can impact sediment movement along the shore. So docks are something that we really need to increase our best practices, and there are ways to mitigate the impacts of docks. And Green Shores offers some of those ways. Finally, in terms of the effects of shoreline hardening, I think a lot of times people think of hardened shores for a marine coast, but really it happens a lot along lake environments as well. It used to be a best practice that put in a hardened shore and that it'll stabilize the shore. But increasingly we found that putting bulkheads or hard armor into along shores of lakes as well as the marine coasts has really serious negative impacts. One of the things that happens, we've all been there and seen the waves overtopping, and it's because the waves, when they hit a hardened shore, there's no energy that is reduced as it goes through the natural shore profile. Basically, that wave just comes up and hits that hard armor, and the impact is anywhere from 5 to 10 times as much as a natural shoreline. Natural shorelines are naturally more resilient to wave action than hardened shores. So how is Green Shores delivered in British Columbia? Basically, we've got two credit and ratings systems. The first is called Green Shores for Shoreline Development. That was released initially in 2010, and just in April of this year has been updated. We also have Green Shores for homes, for residential properties. So those are what I call the backbone of Green Shores, this design guidance that are written documents. We also have a Green Shores local government working group to support implementation of Green Shores in communities across BC. We offer training for use of the credit and rating systems in shoreline projects. We have registration for approved professionals who have taken the Green Shores training. And finally, we have a process where projects can get their projects certified that it has met the Green Shores standard. So I'll talk a little bit more about each of these in the following slides. So looking at Green Shores for shoreline development, as I mentioned, it was developed originally in 2010. And basically you can think of the credit and ratings guides are tools to develop properties in a shore-friendly way. So basically those 4 guiding principles I had mentioned earlier are translated into a series of credits for which a project can achieve points. If you achieve enough points, then the project meets the design standard and it can achieve a rating. So Green Shores for Shoreline Development is applicable to larger scale projects such as commercial, multifamily residential, subdivision, parks, as well as institutional waterfront properties. It's applicable to both marine and lake shorelines, and you can achieve a bronze, silver, or gold rating. And again, it's based on those 4 Green Shores guiding principles. Green Shores for homes, as it sounds, is meant for residential properties. It's for lake as well as marine shorelines, and it's intended to encourage incremental improvements. So for example, if you do have a property that has completely armored, like the properties I showed earlier, you get credit for removing, let's say, 75% or 50% of your armor. So we recognize that moving forward, you need to have a variety of options for property owners to apply, and that we encourage these incremental improvements. There's 2 credit, 2 ratings levels: Green Shores for Homes Chinook, or level 1, or Green Shores for Homes Orca, or level 2. And again, it's based on those 4 guiding principles that I mentioned earlier. So let's dive into Green Shores for Homes a little bit more so you can get a sense of what these credits look like. So category 1 are shoreline process credits, and that obviously relates to that first guiding principles that we want to preserve or restore the shoreline physical processes. There's 6 credits that can be applied. The category 2 is shoreline habitat credits, relates to the principle that we want to maintain or enhance habitat function and diversity. Again, 6 credits. Category 3 is water quality. We want to prevent or reduce pollutants from entering the aquatic environment. And then the 4th category is shore stewardship credits. This is where we encourage collaborative work and education and outreach. And all 4 of the categories address the 4th principle, which is avoid or reducing the cumulative impacts of shoreline development. So let's take a look at some example credits in each of those categories. So this is credit 1.2 in the shoreline processes credits. And this is where Green Shores encourages greater setback. And so you avoid impact if any of your structures are farther back from the shore. So you can see that if you meet the regulatory setback, you can achieve a total of 3 points. Whereas if you're meeting the 75-year setback plus sea level rise in marine environments, you can achieve 10 points. So therefore, you basically are incentivizing greater setbacks. And then there's also some bonus points that you can get. So this is, you can see how you can tweak the design based on what points you want to get, and depending on what the priorities are from the project proponent's perspective, you can tweak things along that line. So looking at the shoreline habitat credits, here's an example for woody debris, where different design options offer different points. So you don't have to do it one way or another. So let's say in this example, you have some woody material that's already on the shore. You're going to want to maintain it for a minimum 50% of the length. Whereas if you have a site that needs full restoration and there's no woody material, then you can get points for adding appropriate woody material in a way that provides habitat value. So that's an example for shoreline habitat. And the shoreline water quality, what we want to do is, this is credit 3.2, reduce and treat runoff. So here you can see you get more points. You can get more points for a less impervious surface. So you can basically you get points for that, and then you can get bonus points for reusing rainwater for landscape use, as well as detain at least 3,800 liters of rainwater. So these are the sorts of things where you can tweak your design to minimize, using gravel trails, for example, not putting in hardened structures. And so that is where you can, in the guide, it details how to calculate the effective impervious area as well as impervious surface area. So you can basically get the points for having less impervious surface. And then finally, for shoreline stewardship, you can see here that we all know that cumulative impact, if we can have a restoration along a greater amount of shore, then that's a better thing. So if you can collaborate with 1, 2, or 3 separate waterfront property owners, you get increasingly more points. So here's an example of an area that has 100% hardened armor, no riparian vegetation to speak of. We've got a shoreline structure quite close to the water, that gazebo. And you can see the before on the left and the after on the right with the restored beach. You've got your woody material, and you've got a very robust riparian planting that's relatively young in this photograph, but that will be growing up. So how do we use the Green Shore certification process? Basically, the intention of the 2 credit and ratings guides are to influence design. So in order to do that, you need to, stage 1, enroll and initiate. Say that you want to do a Green Shores project. Then you receive the template for recording the information about the project, as well as receiving the guide. And then the intention in stage 2 is to use the guide, the appropriate guide, based on which type of project you've got, to maximize the number of credits that are applicable to the project and maximize the number of points. I had a story of somebody who had a project that they've submitted, and I said, well, looking at it the way it is now, you could probably achieve a Green Shores silver rating. And she said to me, oh, DG, why would I want to do that? I want to achieve the gold rating. Tell me, how can I tweak things and with the design and achieve the gold rating? And they did. And oftentimes it's just a matter of really utilizing the design guidance to make sure that you have the design well documented and that it relates to the credit and ratings guides as written. So once you've done that and constructed your project, obviously getting any necessary permits along the way prior to construction, then the project's constructed and documented, then you submit your forms to the Stewardship Centre. We assign a verifier, and then if the project meets the standard, then you receive your award. So in terms of Green Shores, people say, well, why should I bother with the whole Green Shores process? Well, one, from the local government perspective, it really does fit in with climate change adaptation planning and shoreline asset management. It's a very good, basically a good structure, and there's very clear language as to what makes a really great project to restore the ecological function of shorelines or maintain it. From property owners, developers, owners, managers' perspective, they generally value shoreline ecosystem health, as well as they want to reduce risk of property damage. And certainly the nature-based approach that Green Shores takes has been shown increasingly to be the way to go to encourage resilience, as well as manage and mitigate coastal erosion and flooding. So the documentation is increasingly showing that this approach is really a very good way to hit both the minimizing erosion as well as maintaining habitat values. From a professional's point of view, it's profitable and desirable to have Green Shores as a tool in the toolkit, especially around climate adaptation and restoration work. We did find, though, that having just the credit and ratings guides was something that was not enough to support implementation at the community level. So we established a Green Shores local government working group, and we prioritized training delivered in our working group communities so that introduction to Green Shores as well as Green Shores Level 2 Advanced is delivered locally. And we also have monthly teleconferences with peer-to-peer learning opportunities. And generally speaking, the working group communities support demonstration projects so that people can see more and more what Green Shores looks like on the ground. I know that one of the things that you all were really interested in was Green Shores training. So I wanted to give an overview of what we have offering right now. Certainly there's a number of past webinars as well as videos that are available on our training and resources pages. So those are available to review at any time. We also offer 3 levels of training. We offer level 1, which is we call Introduction to Green Shores. Then that's a 1-day field-based workshop. We also offer through BCIT a online version of level 1. We have what we call a Green Shores level 2 or for shoreline practitioners. And it is aimed at folks who are designing designing or helping with construction of shoreline projects on the application of the 2 credit and rating systems on actual projects. And level 1 is a prerequisite for level 2. And finally, we have are developing and piloting this summer what we call level 3, which is Green Shores for approved professionals that once somebody passes that course, they will be on a list managed by the Stewardship Centre of folks who have taken and passed a level 3 course so that they'll be approved Green Shores professionals. So we have a variety of offerings online. The online course, I should mention, is continuous entry, whereas obviously the field-based, we offer those from time to time. We do have a really good relationship in terms of delivery in collaboration with post-secondary institutions Here in British Columbia, we have University of Victoria as well as the British Columbia Institute of Technology. And you can find information about all our training opportunities on our website, and you just go to the Stewardship Centre and then look at the Green Shores program and then training. I did want to just highlight, this is a fellow who took one of our pilot training courses way back in 2016. And he mentioned, he called me up a few days later the next week and said, DG, I think I'm super excited about this. And I think I have some projects that I could be work on, do Green Shores with. And he just really saw it as a great opportunity to work and doing work that he loved and doing it in a way that he knows he can feel good about supporting the natural shoreline. And he was the fellow who got the helped design and construct the first Green Shores for Homes project in BC that achieved Green Shores for Homes accreditation. And he's a real strong proponent and advocate for this approach. So I'd like to, with that, to wrap up and say thank you very much. There are, you can get in touch with me. There's my email address, dg@stewardshipcenterbc.ca. And certainly take a look at the website. There's an awful lot of resources that are available there. And I hope you get in touch and have a good rest of your workshop. Bye for now.